Good afternoon and welcome to the Racetrack Chapel. I'm glad to have you guys here today to celebrate a life that I'm honored to say was my friend as well. I'm glad I knew her for as long as I did. And if I can, I'm going to read the obit real quick. Dr. Sue Kreins was born February 20th, 1942 in Escondido, California. She passed away on Saturday, March 12th, 2016 in her home. Dr. Kreins is survived by her loving husband of 40 years, William J. Kreins of Alto, her daughter Margaret Kreins of Long Beach, California, her son Lyle Guillory of Alexandria, Louisiana, her brother and sister-in-law Edward and Emily Kreins of Nipomo, California, and her loving niece Maria Jack of Woodland Hills, California. Dr. Kreins is also survived by 8 grandchildren, 9 great-grandchildren. Dr. Kreins is preceded in death by her son William, her sister Sally, her brother-in-law Joe, and her niece Lisa. Dr. Kreins lived the last 22 wonderful years in Alto. The love of her life was her horses and the horse racing industry. Prior to moving to New Mexico, Dr. Kreins was an aerospace manager for North American Aviation in Los Angeles, California, working primarily on the Space Shuttle and B-1 bomber programs. Dr. Kreins became disabled and went back to school and obtained 2 master's degrees and a PhD in psychology. These were in addition to the Bachelor of Science she already had. Dr. Kreins did her residency at the Salvation Army Addiction Hospital in San Diego. There she helped dozens of addicts return to a normal, productive life. There are not many success stories in the field of addiction, but every addict who makes it back to being a productive member of society is one more soldier for God. Dr. Kreins had a true passion for helping those in need. If you all join me in prayer. Father, we thank you for this opportunity to be here today, to mourn, yes, Father, but more importantly, to celebrate a life that touched all of us in ways we may not ever understand. We thank you for her smile, for her laughter, for the touch that she was in our lives. We ask today, Father, that you bless anyone who called her family, that you help their mourning, that you ease their time, that they remember her voice and all the wise words she had for us. We ask especially, Father, today that you bless Bill and Margie and Lyle in this time for them. What a wonderful couple of weeks they've had and being with her and being part of all these things. Father, we ask that you bless this service. Keep us all safe in this and in our travels. May everyone hear your voice, Father. May they know your touch, and may they be still and know that you are God in all the ways that you are God. Father, just bless this room with your Holy Spirit. We thank you for your presence today. In Jesus' name, amen. Hang on. If you guys don't mind, I want to say something real quick. The last few years, I had a chance to get to know Sue. And for those of you that don't know, 99% of my time with her was spent in the hospital. And I would go and she'd ask me to read the Bible to her, and I read her hours and hours and hours of the Bible. And we had a great time. We talked about faith. We talked about Jesus. We talked about Bill a lot. We talked about family. And for those of you that knew her, she talked about me while I was there. She had to check me out and make sure I was okay. And one of the things I loved about Sue was when my mom was sick, when I came in the room, I could not ask her a word until I told her how my mom was first. And then we could talk about her. In my time with her, in the hours and hours and days of reading with her and actually other family members, her favorite book of the Bible was the book of John. And she had a long journey of faith. It was odd, as lots of people's are. And the book of John is the one book she knew fairly well. And I would read to her, and every time I came, I'd start John chapter 1, and we'd read, and she'd pick something, and we'd discuss it. Her favorite verse, which I'm going to get to in a minute, is in chapter 14. Chapter 14 of John is one of the most beautiful chapters in the Bible. And it starts out, "Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. And where I go, you know, and the way you know." This is the first verse we'd always key on. This is the first verse she'd always stop me on. And we'd always stop and talk about what does a mansion in heaven look like. And for those of you that knew Sue, she was uber intelligent. And this concept blew her mind. And we talked about this a lot. I had the distinct honor and pleasure in her last days to talk about this again. Saturday a week ago, I spent several hours with her. and we talked about John 14. Bill asked me to come and read to her. I read to her more than once that day, and when I got to 14, she stopped me again. And we stopped and talked about mansions in heaven. And she told me that she was ready to go see what the mansions in heaven are. Sue's path of faith, we can never know what it is. Only God knows. We can trust in what she said and that her curiosity and her heart was in the right line. The next verse that we came to for her and I that we stopped on was Jesus speaking. And this was hers for organized religion. This is the one she always came to. Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. For those of you that knew Sue, this was an issue for her because she controlled everything in her world. Last week we talked about this again, and she told me that she was beginning to understand what it is to have trust. Her favorite verse, which surprised me, about 2 years ago in the hospital, her and I are sitting there, Bill had just left, and in two of my Bibles are her last wishes written. And she told me this verse is the only one she remembers. It's the most important to her. It's John 14:14. If you ask anything in my name, I will do it. For someone who spent a lifetime questioning and searching and seeking after God and what the truth of faith is, this is the verse she always remembered. So in her intellectual mind, with all these degrees, Dr. Nana, as we were calling her for a week, she knew that the answer was to trust in his name. And we encouraged that a lot in the last week. I can tell you that my time with her was absolutely blessed. Her time with any of you was absolutely blessed. Sue, sitting in the hospital, questioning her health, whatever was going on that day, at the end of our conversations, one of the things she always asked me about were how were the kids down here doing and what could she do to help. She was always asking about helping someone else. Laying in a hospital bed, not understanding her own health, all kinds of questions, all kinds of stress. Her days were dedicated to trying to help someone else. Me, you, everyone in this room, and many, many others. My memories of her will be having really intellectual conversations at a much higher level, laughing, teasing Bill, because her and I did that a lot. I loved her greatly. I love Bill greatly. And I'm glad I had the opportunity to know her. I'm glad you guys did too.
Precious memories, unseen angels, sent from somewhere to my soul. How
Thank you. Don't get scared with these notes. I'm not going to read them all. Just like to remind myself what I have to say. I do want to thank all of you for being here on behalf of Bill and our family, and really appreciate your being here. And for those who are not here, there were many, many people who contacted Bill in the past few days and have let us know how they feel and how much they love Sue. There's a story that just happened this morning. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell it. Bill's told it to a few people. It's sort of strange story, but quick. I sleep downstairs at Bill's house, but he wanders around all night long, so I make sure downstairs I shut the door so I don't hear Bill too many times, and the door stays closed. This morning at 3 o'clock, I woke up and the door's wide open, and I know I shut that door, so believe whatever you want, but then my story is that Sue came in and looked at my eulogy and said she didn't like a lot of things I was going to say, so I had to change it from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock this morning. So there's one thing I want to say which isn't here. I just thought of it, and I'm going to throw it out, and I'll get out of sequence. Bill loves sequence. If he tells a story, it's got to be in sequence. But Bill and I were born on the same day, 3 years apart. My mother came to me on my 3rd birthday and said, wow, look at this present we have for you, and they handed me Bill. And I said, but I wanted a bicycle, you know. And unlike today, when you get anything in a package, you know, it comes in a package and it automatically has a return slip. I kept looking for the return slip for a long time, never could give Bill back. His story about that is he's actually a twin, and he just didn't want to come out for 3 years and decided to come out on my birthday. So, but anyway, you know, they've done, well, a couple of people I want to thank first. I want to thank Daryl, obviously, for the chapel and for what he's done and what he's done for Sue and Bill. And Danny, of course, from the funeral home, and the guy, and I'm not trying to single out people or miss somebody, but the guy that I want to thank the most is Bobby. I think Bobby's been unbelievable in terms of what he has done over the years for Sue and what he's done recently. I know Bobby's not a Catholic, but I put in a request to Pope Francis, and he's going to give you dispensation if they decide to make you a saint, because I think you deserve it. You know, there are two major fears. The number 2 fear, and these are legitimate surveys that have been done in the past, and many of you may have heard this in the past, but the number 2 fear is fear of dying, and the number 1 fear, believe it or not, is the fear of speaking in public. So Sue, you took the easy way out, and you left me here to speak. So the comments I make today might be a little on the faith side, and I don't plan on going too much into faith or God, although I will make some comments with regard. I told Daryl, don't get upset if my comments about faith differ from his comments about faith. I'm not trying to take his job. You know, if you have a service here at Trackside Chapel, or whether you have one at the Basilica in Rome, it doesn't make any difference. And the reason it doesn't make any difference is because you're all praying to the same God. And so I think here at the chapel, he's here with us and with Sue just as much as he's in Rome at the Basilica. And if you say prayers, I think, and I've always believed this, for many, many years I worked in a Jewish community, and many of their prayers begin Baruch Atoi Adonai. If you're Catholic and you say Nomine Patri et Filio Spiritus Sanctus in your prayer in the name of the Father, or you're just a cowboy at the track and you get up in the morning and put your boots on and you're sitting on the side of the bed and you said, hey God, it's Mitch and I want to talk to you. I don't think it's any different with that God. They're all the same God. I think that one of the differences I've had in the past sometimes, and I'm not going to get deeply into it, but I don't know why people like Sue have to suffer. I don't know why some people suffer more than other people. An old friend of mine had been married for 70 years. The day I left to come up here for Sue, never been sick. She laid down, took a nap at age 90, and didn't wake up. And you know that God took her, and she didn't go through the suffering. Sue did. And my feeling and my honest belief in this is that God only takes the strongest people, and he makes the strongest people suffer like Christ did. And I think those strong people just let us know a little more about them and what they went through, and we really honor and love them even that much more for all the suffering they went through. And of course, poor Sue went through a lot over the years. I personally, and this is where I might differ from some people, and particularly even my religion, is that I believe God created all of us. He created man. But I personally believe that God gave us free will. And I don't picture a God sitting in his office in heaven and checking a box and saying, well, I'll give Ed cancer, give Bill a heart attack, I'll give Sue bipolar, and I'll make a horse fall on Mitch. But I think, this is where I differ a little bit, because I think that when we're born and when we're raised, we go out in the world and we do things, and you have consequences. And some people become good people and some people are not so good. The reason I believe that is I can't believe that any God would sit in heaven and say, okay, I'm going to create ISIS and kill Christians, or I'm going to run airplanes into a building. I think that's a free will activity of a person. And they did that, and they did the wrong things. But that's where I tend to differ a little bit sometimes. Or else I just don't think God would do that. I think that when that happens, or there's horrible things that happen in the world, I do believe God sits there and says, well, I gave those people free will, and they really screwed it up. So, but then I think the day will come in their own judgment that they will pay a price for any actions that they actually take. I have a poem, and I apologize. I'm only going to read a couple of things, but I want to make sure that I get these correct and don't extemporaneously speak. This sort of sums up the way I feel and have felt about my own wife. I've been married 64 years to Emily. And how I feel about, I'm sure Bill feels about and felt about Sue, and about how you and others who have loved people over the years might feel. This poem was written many, many years ago by E.E. Cummings, and it sort of sums up. It says, I carry your heart with me. I carry it in my heart. I am never without it. Anywhere you go, my dear, and whatever is done by me is your doing. My darling, I fear no fate for you, or my fate and my sweet. I want no world, for you are my world, my true, and it's you, who are whatever a moon has always been meant to be, and whatever a sun will always sing. Here's the deepest secret nobody knows. Here's the root of the root, the bud of the bud, the sky, the tree called life, which grows higher than the soul can hope or mind can hide. And this is the wonder that keeps the stars apart. I carry your heart. I carry it in my heart. I've always liked that poem, and I've always felt it was very moving for people that care about others and people who love each other. And now I'll get off the less faith things, the less serious things. Tell you a little bit about Sue and my relationship and my family's relationship with her. I met Sue